Hey everybody, quick question. What's the best off-ice puck you've ever used? Well, our friends at Hockey Tutorial called the new Puck Around Pro Training Puck the greatest off-ice puck they've ever seen. And after testing it ourselves, we get why. This thing is a game changer. It's the same size and weight as a real ice hockey puck, and it's been designed with a scientifically engineered core that gives you the same on-ice feel for puck handling and shooting off the ice. That's not something we've ever seen before. They've even added a crosshatch design for better grip and authentic feel. This is the most realistic off-ice puck ever and trusted by players and coaches, whether you're training in the driveway, on the street, or on the outdoor rink. We know this is something that you and your kids are going to want, so we put together a great deal for you. For a limited time, use the code OKPH at wraparoundhockey.com and you'll get a nice discount on a 2-pack of the Puck Around Pro Training Puck. Again, that's wraparoundhockey.com, or click the link accompanying this episode at any time. It's a tremendous gift for your hockey player and a great Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another edition of Our Girls Play Hockey. I'm Lee Elias, joined by Sherri and Mike Benelli. Our guest today is a true trailblazer in women's hockey, a world champion, an Olympic gold medalist, and now one of the most recognizable voices in sports broadcasting. Tessa Bonhomme is a former standout defenseman for Team Canada, having won gold at the 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympics and multiple medals in the IIHF Women's World Championships. She played her collegiate hockey at Ohio State, where she captained the team and left a lasting legacy. Following her playing career, Tessa transitioned into broadcasting, making history as the first female correspondent on TNSN's Sports Center. Today, she's a prominent face in hockey media and a passionate advocate for growing the women's game. We're honored to have Tessa with us today to talk about her journey, the growth of girls hockey, and what it means to lead both on and off the ice. Tessa, that was a fun intro to read. Welcome to Our Girls Play Hockey.
Thank you. Great job on my last name. You nailed it.
Thank you. Like I said, we take pride in that here. We try and make that work for not just the guests, but the audience, because we want people to know what you're supposed to be called at the end of the day. But
you did good for a non-French speaking, non-Canadian. So
I appreciate that. You know, when we all know this, we're in the hockey world. You got to strive to get that right.
Yeah. Listen, you usually get it wrong the first 3 times. And then once Twitter finally, or X, whatever they call it nowadays, the people will let you know exactly how to do things, right?
Yeah, this is not Starbucks. We're going to get it right on the first try. That's what we try to make. Tessa, I think that the obvious place to start, but I actually want to hear this too. You had such an incredible playing career. Can you take us back to the early days? What first got you into the game? When did you realize it was something you were going to pursue seriously? What's your origin story?
So I grew up in Northern Ontario. It's a city called Sudbury, Ontario. We are a nickel mining community, home of the Sudbury Wolves and the Sudbury Lady Wolves. And I was a very active kid growing up. I loved getting dirty. I loved playing outside. No matter what game or sport it was, I just wanted to play with people in the neighborhood. And it was actually my babysitter at the time, Shauna Cresswell, who she noticed when we were over there being babysat after school for post-secondary care that I was constantly playing, ball hockey or street hockey with the kids. And albeit there weren't many girls that went to this daycare, and I have a sister, and I saw her every other minute of the day. So it was like, well, I can play with you whenever I want, so I'm going to go play with these kids. And she just saw how much I loved playing. And she actually mentioned to my parents, her husband at the time coached an outdoor hockey team. And she just said to my parents, she loves it and she's having a ton of fun with it. If you want her to play, I'm sure, he would be more than happy to have her. And my parents had a discussion about it. My dad wasn't too keen on it, which is funny because, he played hockey his entire career. He was an OHL scout for many years. So as he coached hockey himself. And it was my mom that kind of put her foot down and was like, that's what our kid wants to do. Like, that's what she's going to do. So my mom went across the street to our neighbor's house and asked if we could borrow their son Chad's old hockey gear. So I got Chad's old gear, his Cooperalls, all the cool stuff. And so my dad, when he saw how, driven my mom was to let me do whatever the heck I wanted, he was like, all right, cool, I got this. Because I don't think my mom really knew how to put gear on. So my dad took over and the rest is history from there. I feel like I was playing on an outdoor hockey team with frozen fingers and frozen toes, just having a blast with, a bunch of friends. And it got to a point where um, I always knew how to skate. My dad made sure we knew how to skate, but it got to a point where all of a sudden I was a little bit better than some people. Not that I knew, but my dad was like, "We're going to go to a tryout, and you're going to try out for this team." And I'd gone to the tryout, and the team jerseys were black for whatever reason. That was intimidating to me. Might have had to do with Mighty Ducks, I think. I'm not sure, but I decided to go try out with one of my friends, Tyler Lawson, for the Coppercliff Redmen. And I made that team. The coach, saw something in me. Did I deserve to make it? I'm not sure. I don't even really remember back then. I just know that I just tried hard, and I just wanted to have fun with everybody out there. And the group was great. I had a ton of growth that year, and the rest is kind of history. I mean, I played boys for as long as I could, and then they obviously grow bigger, and the long blonde ponytail becomes a larger target. Back when body checking was introduced in Pee Wee. And yeah, my dad and my good friend Rebecca Johnson and my good friend, Katie Johnson, and my good friend Megan Shutt, their fathers were big into hockey. Rod Shutt actually played in the NHL, and they're like, let's start a girls team. And so they did. And they literally took our soccer team that played together in the summer and was like, who can skate? Anybody? And so they're like, all right, you, and you come on over. And we became the wintertime hockey team. We were literally like just a traveling road show. The parents got along real well. My dad always had a guitar on the road. He had printed binders of songs that he knew how to play. So we'd be playing mini sticks and the parents would be boozing and singing songs. So we kind of had, our own DJ, I guess. They didn't sound great, but whatever, it was music. And I think the first time I hockey was always fun to me. It was never anything I took super serious. I didn't like it that way. I didn't want it to be that way. That hockey was my escape for a long time. And to be honest, I was a little bit ashamed at first when I first started playing. I didn't tell my friends until like probably grade 2 or 3, and it was only because I feel like I played against a teacher's son or something. Just because girls weren't doing that back then, and so it was kind of like my escape where I could like go run amok, be that rambunctious little girl, and have fun and laugh and score goals and be a winner or be a loser, whatever it was. It didn't matter. I was playing hockey, and that was the best thing about it. And then we were at provincials one year around this time of year. And my father was approached by Wally Kozak, one of the scouts for Hockey Canada. Guy's a legend. Love Wally. And he was like, yeah, I think your daughter's got it. Like, I'm going to try and get her invited to the under-22 tryouts this year. I hadn't gone to university yet. And there was no under-18 program. And my dad was like, cool. And so he had mentioned it to me. And at this point, I had never been cut in my life or looked over for anything. But I didn't understand that Hockey Canada had a process. Like I should have tried out and gone and tried to play for Team Ontario at some point, which I didn't do because I was playing soccer in the summer with my friends. I didn't want to be playing hockey in the summertime. I was being recruited to universities, and that was kind of scary yet exciting and eye-opening for me. So I just had other stuff going on that I didn't. And I don't even think I really understood. I don't think my parents did either, the avenue that you had to take in order to what boxes needed to be checked, really, to make an under-22 team back in that day. And so he had sent my dad an email. We went home after that tournament. I committed to Ohio State shortly after, and I got looked over for the under-22 team. And I was kind of like, I was pissed off. Like, it really upset me. And it was the first time, like I said, that I'd ever really been left off or looked over for any team. And it's funny because that really made me angry. And I didn't know at the time that was, I don't want to say the right reaction, but the right reaction. Like, that was fuel for my fire. And when I went to University of Ohio State, my coach was like, we're going to get you there. And I was like, I'm going to have the best year anyone's ever seen. Like, this is it. And I had a pretty successful freshman year. It really forced me to turn to, I had chosen Ohio State, by the way, because Emma Laaksonen, who was a leader and a captain on Team Finland for many years, she was on that team and I wanted to play with her. I wanted to learn from her. I didn't want to, go to a school and play with every American and Canadian teammate that I was going to play with. I wanted to learn from somebody different who saw it from a different avenue, who knew what it was like to lose to Canada or and stuff like that, and see how they trained, because I knew how we were training and stuff like that. And Emma really pushed me and taught me a lot. And in being cut, it kind of forced me to mature in that sense, where it was like, start absorbing everything you can. Like, whatever someone's telling you to do, try it and learn. Does it work for you or not? Did you like that or not? When you're practicing, you can't go end to end anymore. Start making a pass and taking those 3 extra steps and bust into space. It's not a one trick pony show. And that moment was the first probably true growing moment for me in my career at that point. And after my freshman year at Ohio State, then I got the invite to go try out for under 22s, which was a ton of fun. And that was also an eye-opening experience too, because I was like always used again to being the most fit. I don't want to say the strongest looking. I was a rather slight child. I was so pumped when I finally broke 110 pounds as a kid. And so I go to these camps and everyone there looks like me, if not stronger. And so that was kind of like an aha moment for myself, where it's like, okay, so right now you're doing the bare minimum. You got here, and so did all of these other people. Like, what's going to separate you? And I remember putting a lot into the fitness testing component, thinking to myself, you're going to be sore if you go as hard as you can in all of this, but that's okay, because you want your name to be at the top of that list. You're the new kid. They looked you over before, and then the rest is just hockey. Like, just go play hockey. And so I did. I mean, bench press was never my strength. I blame my long arms for that. But yeah, that moment, I remember that still really sticks with me, that moment, those under 22s and what that felt like to be amongst other people that actually like played the game the way I did, in a sense, that loved it as much as I did. And the coolest thing about that group was, and I still love that group, that's probably one of my favorite Hockey Canada groups ever, was that under 22 group that we had. Everyone had so much fun. And like, it wasn't that dead serious, make the team, you're on the bubble kind of thing. Everyone was there just having themselves. It was like an all-star team from university teams, and we all got together and just shot the breeze and played hockey and had a blast.
But before you jump into your question, Tessa, I want to say we do a lot of these shows, and I'm always looking for commonalities between guests, right? And one that every guest that has played at your level has shared is that the game begins in a love for the game and an enjoyment of the game. It didn't start with, I have to make an Olympic team because this and my... No, it starts with love of the game. And then there is a moment where the fire turns into an inferno, right? Yeah. And that there's a lot of different versions of that, right? But a lot of the times it's I didn't make the team I thought I was going to make. And then from that fire, the complete laser focus of what needs to be done to achieve a goal. Those are the commonalities. And I say that to the hockey parents listening, because there is no direct path to wherever you think your kids should be, right? And the truth is that a lot of this origin story is letting them live their life. Yeah, you have to have a love of the game. You have to face adversity. And then your kid, or you in this case, Tessa, has to have that drive and passion to put the work in. You can't give your kids any of those 3 things. We always say you can cultivate it, you can't create it. So I appreciate you sharing that story, because it's an amazing thing.
I think too, it's all teachable moments, right? I was lucky enough that, I had a family that loved hockey. So my dad made sure that I fell in love with it before he could even teach me to love the game.
Right.
And then when your kid finds the fun in something, then you get them to work a little hard at it. Like, skating is probably the hardest thing to learn. That's what makes hockey so hard at first. So before you throw a kid in gear with a stick on the ice in Timbits hockey or whatever you want to do, put them in learn to skate before they even know what they're doing. Because then they know how to skate and it's all done. And you can throw the stick in their hand and it's not this giant obstacle. It's just adding something unique and different, right?
Right.
But I think the moments that you talk about, the adversity moments, those are like very teachable moments that you can't protect your kid from. Like, you have to let them hurt in those.
Yeah.
And it's important. Some of my most favorite moments in my career were losses and being cut. And that came from that comes from a moment of growth that I recognize in myself. Wow, look where I came from there, or look how I overcame that. Or you learn something about yourself that all of a sudden you're like, wow, I really don't like that about me. I should probably shape up and get better here. And so I think I had, parents that weren't ever finger pointers, like they made a mistake, that it was always like, okay, let's assess. Let's assess what happened. This is hard. I get it. It sucks. But like, okay, where could we have done better? Let's look at that kind of thing, And it's like, I'm not saying you're bad. We're saying, let's work together and we're all going to get better at this and you'll be happier. And then, to be honest, with kids, my favorite coaches were the ones that were hardest on me. They weren't the coddling ones, because when you put, and I don't want to say an expectation, but when you tell a kid, or when my parents told me, or a coach told me, Tessa, I want to see you do that. And it's not saying or I know you did that, but you got to be doing this. And it's not like they're asking me to do something that they think I can't do. Them saying things to me like that were letting me know, hey, I know you can do it. Go do it. Right? It wasn't harping. It wasn't anything. It was an expectation, because they had the belief in me that I could do that. And as much as you think kids might not digest it that way, it is that, because the belief is there. Now, I'm not saying you have to yell at a kid, but you just have to let them know, hey, go do this, or I expect you to be able to do this because you can. And it's like, that is instilling the confidence. By coddling and protecting, you're wiping away all confidence. There's a time to push. I always say, my dad got it right. There's always a time to push and there's a time to let go. And so in the moments when they need a little bit of a push, you have to constantly, because when they see themselves all of a sudden get better and they can do it, then all of a sudden it's like, holy smokes, I am that good, And then it's like, how did coach know that? And it's like, okay, well, now what can I do? And all of a sudden the kid's coming to you. What else could I do? Hey, what should I have done in that play? Like, all of a sudden you're going to see this kid, their mind open up to the game. And then that's when you kind of get to work on their hockey IQ, because the skills and stuff, that stuff comes when they're playing outside with ball hockey with their friends, or mini sticks in the basement. All that stuff comes, and they're absorbing it like crazy with YouTube and on TV now too, which is wild. The athletes were all visual. The fact that these kids have been watching YouTube from day one, it doesn't surprise me that some 9-year-olds doing the Michigan in a league game,
Yeah, it's crazy. So I think I want to find out and hear more about the guitar fireside stuff at the tournaments. But I think because I think it's awesome that you're with a group of families that just understood the fact that that family piece, and that piece of all our daughters are in this, and we're in an environment where if we can get along and we can support each other, that's going to translate to the on ice and translate to why people want to go to tournaments and want to go to games. And I think we've lost that a little bit, certainly in our game now, where people take their corners and take their spots and don't have that. I mean, I know it's like when I grew up, my family, I don't think my parents even knew we had practice. They were upstairs, like a wine and cheese party or something. Is practice over yet? And now you see every dad on the glass, watching every moment. So it's a really great, I think, thing to understand from, your perspective. I mean, obviously coming from the Ohio State University, and then, competing at the highest, all these great international levels. And you talked a little bit about it, but I hope you could talk a little bit more about your first foray into having, like you said, these women that you saw as great leaders. How did you take that then and translate that to what you did with the younger players that came up, with you?
Oh, yeah, man. I didn't really have a female hockey role model, until the 98 Nagano Olympics were announced, which was that women's hockey would be in it. So I was real young. And, my dad had done a pretty good job, and my mom, they did their due diligence in making sure that when Women's Worlds was on once a year, and the only game that was on was the final, that I was sitting down and watching it. And my dad would randomly come home from scouting God knows where with a magazine. I remember Vicky Sanahara was on the front of it, just her face. And I read everything about Vicky Sanahara. And then there was another one, same magazine with Wick on a motorcycle on it. And I was like, that's pretty rad. Like, look at how badass this chick looks. Like, who is she? And learn about Wick. And then I remember my dad waking me up for the Nagano Olympic final game at 5 a.m. before school. And we went downstairs. We kept the basement dark, but we had pillows with blankets and we were watching. And I remember like crying when Canada lost. And a player that had played like me or had a similar style to me was Geraldine Heaney. And that was my first ever female role model that I had discovered during the 98 Olympics, where I was like, I could see myself in somebody. And it was like, I wanted to learn everything about her. And my dad saw that, and he had a connection through my mother. My mom's an optician, so she had an Oakley rep who was buddies with someone who coached the Beatrice Toronto Arrows. And so they knew Geraldine Heaney. And my dad's like, Debbie, can you ask if Geraldine Heaney would be willing to come up and coach hockey school for a week? I'll start a girls' hockey school. So my dad did, and Heaney came up for 5 days and like hung out with us, let us touch her medal. She played with us. It was like, that moment was the coolest. And I still have friends that I went to that camp with. I keep in touch with all of my hockey pals, to be honest. But, and we still talk about that sometimes. Like, isn't that crazy? Like, way back in 98, like, what was Geraldine thinking? Like, imagine driving from Toronto up to Sudbury. You never been here, like, in the winter or, like, fall, whatever it was. And I remember it was just so chill. She was just so casual and kind. And, like, my dad was like, hey, you're in town. We met her at the hotel. He made sure there was, a 12-pack of beer in her room and told her where the gym was. And she came out for dinner with us that night. We had wings and they had a beer. And she just talked to me and talked to my dad. And it wasn't like, to me, she was a superstar. But to her, she was just hanging out with people. And I remember how nice that made me feel. And then the next day on the ice, she was like, what's up, Tess? And it was like, can you believe Geraldine Heaney just called me? Like, this is insane. So then it was like, hey, Jer, how you doing? And I was this little, spunky kid talking to her. And she just treated every kid like that and every parent. And she took time for everyone. And I was just like, man, what a cool person. I honestly thought she was the coolest. So then in my mind, that's where I was like, well, that's how you act when you're famous. And I remember she drove a Jimmy. And I was like, I'm going to drive a Jimmy too. Like, I was like, I'm going to try. I'm going to put a Canada flag on the back of it. Like, I don't know. Anyways. And, I just kept watching her and cheering for her. So she really set the precedent for me on what it was like to act like a role model and a pioneer. And it wasn't, she didn't act like she was special. She didn't act like she was better than anybody. She talked to everybody as equals. She ate wings and drank beer just like everyone else I knew. And she was damn good at hockey, and she trained. She went to the gym every morning before she came and worked with us. So I Jer's a friend now of mine, which is like kind of cool. I kind of laugh sometimes when I talk to her. I'm just like, man, you have no idea how much I was nerding out over the fact that like you came to Sudbury. She's like, yeah, I still can't believe I did that. I was like, me neither, but I'm glad you did. So I feel like
right? Yeah.
That's it. She just let me know and let every kid there know that, like, sure, she's from down south, a big city, and we're from up north, but I'm just like you. Like, you want to do this? Go do it. Like, we're all here, we're all doing it. You love hockey. I love hockey. Like, play. And I think that's kind of how I treat everything, any kid that, comes to my hockey school in the summer, or any hockey school that I go work, or any Toronto Scepters game or PWHL game that I'm at, you're talking to anybody. And that's just the conversation. It's like, we're equals here. We're all pushing for the greater good. I know you're good at hockey. You know, you're good at hockey. We know the hockey we're watching is great. And that's all that matters, And I think that was a hard thing, actually, now that you're making me talk myself into something here. And you kind of learn growing up, because like I always knew we had something really great because everybody watched our finals and everyone loved them and wanted to talk to us at events about it. Like, oh man, or like when someone would be like, come play at my beer league, you'd go play at beer league. People would be like, who's that? Like, you can play. And it's like, yeah, I know, man. Like, we always knew it was there. The appetite was there too. It just wasn't out there enough. And I think um, instead of getting frustrated and mad, it's a matter of having your focus on one thing. Is it fact or is it opinion? To
Right.
me, the fact of the matter was we were good and we were great, and we just didn't have a platform yet. The opinion was, well, whatever, NHL hockey's better. It's like, well, we're different. Like, we're not, that's apple and oranges. It's a completely different game. And so I think focusing on and dumping our energy into the facts of the matter, as opposed to all these random crappy, blockheaded opinions, really helped get the league to where it is today too. And I mean, I'm not saying that we had a big hand in it. I played in a couple iterations of professional women's league prior to the PW, but I think that thought process with those ladies back then, being passed on through all of us and through the ladies that made the PW happen, kind of was the reason for all this to happen.
So I'm happy you brought that up and brought up the Arrows. I'm still proud Arrows alumni. A little bit older than you. A little bit older than you. So in 1998, I was on the junior Arrows, and similar story.
Nice.
It was like Angela James, Cassie Campbell, Geraldine Heaney, Cheryl Pounder, like anyone who was anyone on the national team played on the Arrows, right? And I was just 17 on the junior Arrows. So
yeah,
you were
Piper was probably there too. Was Piper there?
Yep. I played with Piper, since I was like 14. Like her dad was my coach on the Toronto Marlies before that. So very small circle. But yeah, we missed each other by a few years. But anyways, so you're the fourth Arrow to come on the show. Sherri's been on the show. Cassie's been on the show. Kendra Fisher on the show. And now yourself. So hopefully we'll get everyone in the organization one day on the show. But it's nice to see we all turned out okay, but that time was really impactful on me. And I'm sure yourself being around those players and having someone to look up to. And for me, it was, it was Angela James, right? And now
AJ.
Same sort of thing is now AJ's come here, help me with stuff. I stay at her house when I go there now. So it's like your idols kind of become your friends, like as you get older. And what I wanted to kind of get into with you is playing Toronto Arrows, you're CWHL. When I was playing, it was Senior Junior Arrows, NWHL. Then we had PHF, PWHL. So can you talk about how you've seen the women's game evolve since you were playing?
Oh, man. We were called a professional league, but it wasn't truly professional. We were practices were at like 9:30 at night, once, maybe twice a week. Everyone had full-time jobs. We had lawyers, we had firefighters, we had teachers. I was a sportscaster at the time. And it was like, who can make practice? You know what I mean? And then it's like, we didn't have a dressing room at first. We didn't all have, do we have matching helmets the first season? Maybe.
In CWHL?
Yeah. I can't remember.
And NWHL was Beatrice. So they were kitted out with all the Beatrice stuff.
Yeah, I remember the Beatrice Arrows had the best. But in the Toronto Furies, we were the Toronto team. Yeah, I think we all matched. Anyways, it was like, it was, I don't want to say it was a lot of smoke and mirrors. Like we had a lot of people. We played out of what was then the MasterCard Center, now the Ford Performance Center. So the Etobicoke Dolphins practice and played out of there. So when we would have like a Sunday afternoon home game, our rink was packed because like what parent isn't going to want their kid to go watch for very little money a ton of Olympians play and then have a chance to meet them after? I mean, you're not doing your due diligence as a parent if you don't realize what impact I can have on your kid, especially if your kid likes hockey. So we had a ton of fans and we had some pretty good followings in Toronto, but was it a professional league? No, like we were still getting pizza on the bus sometimes. And it wasn't like they have it today, but it was as professional as it could have been in that moment of time. And to say that we didn't take it seriously is a lie. We absolutely made sure we treated it as professional as we could, because there's a lot of people out there that thought it was a joke and we didn't want to add to that. Like if we treated it like a joke, well, of course it's a joke. It's a glorified beer league, which it wasn't. It was a place where all of these women needed to play hockey, especially the ladies who were training and trying to compete at a national level. And to be quite frank, all of the ladies on my time who were training and competing and trying to make a national team are in endless debt to all of the lawyers and the teachers and the firefighters who sacrificed their time and their weekends to make this league even be a thing. Do you know what I mean? Because without them, we wouldn't have had anything. And so that was the coolest part. It was almost like they were investing in our hockey career in a sense, but it was cool because we all got to hang out. We were all pals from before, went to university together or played against each other at university. But to then watch, another league get created in the PHF, which is fine. It just meant more women could continue to play hockey after school, which I thought was very important. And then you're like, okay, now there's 2 places to play. What's going on? And then to have the CWHL fold and every single national team player say, we're not even going to play anywhere unless there is one proper professional league that is founded properly and has a good business plan in place. It was like scary. And I remember thinking like, this better work. If this doesn't work, I don't know what's going to happen because this has to be the play. And it took a couple years, but thankfully for, Kendall Coyne Schofield, Jana Hefford, Hillary Knight, all the ladies in the mix, Sarah Nurse, Brianne Jenner, who were on that board, Billie Jean King in particular, finding the Mark Walter group at an event one day, just completely changed the trajectory of, I think, women's hockey and women's sport too. It's crazy. It was a moment in time, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this before. It was a moment in time when all of a sudden all the stars were aligning. So, we had I grew up in the Diana Taurasi era, which was awesome. Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, like unreal. Got to watch them in March Madness. And then, you had the Sabrina Ionescu moment come, and it was kind of like, oh, there's a little blip, but nothing really. What's going on? And then all of a sudden it was like the Caitlin Clark era and Angel Reese and the PWHL dropping. And all of a sudden women's sports had this it was like this buildup, like this volcano that was just waiting to erupt. And it all happened at the right time. The league took off. Year 1, people were like, it feels like year 5. And everybody just kind of pushed and carried the same momentum and they're flourishing in it in a sense that okay, yay. We weren't wrong. We were right this whole time. The facts were the facts and let's continue to build on this. And I think that, none of them are taking it lightly, which is nice. And I think that the younger generation is of the understanding as well, just how fortunate and lucky that we are that we have this league started, but it's just started. We're not even done year 2 yet. People are acting, sometimes I feel like we're in year 7 or 8, but we're only in year 2. And so it's important for the longevity of this league, parents out there, for you to continue to watch the games on TV because ratings matter. That's where all of money in sports comes from, is broadcast rights. So make sure you're tuning into the games, having your daughters watch because I don't know. I feel like sometimes for parents, fathers in particular, to throw a game on and be like, that's Connor McDavid, watch Connor, or on highlights or whatever. And it's like, why is that so easy? Why can't you just throw a game on and be like, that's Marie-Philippe Poulin. You'll never see a female hockey player as good as her for a long time. There's Sarah Fillier. She's the next up and comer. That's Hillary Knight. She's the GOAT. No one scored more points than her in a world championship ever. And it's like, it's easy. It's a very easy thing to do. So parents, I hope you realize just how important that is, not only for your daughters, but for your sons as well. I mean, to be well-rounded and down to earth. I mean, what sister what girl that has a brother, who lifts them up and loves them, those kids, notice they have the most self-confidence. And so to have a brother that knows female hockey players, that is interested in their sister's hockey career and shows that interest, is only going to be better for the little girl as well.
Yeah, Tessa, I can comment on that too, because I have a boy and a girl at home who both play. And in our house, sports are just sports. I mean, that's kind of the way we've presented it to them. I'm thinking about the other day, we went from Major League Baseball to the women's NCAA championship game it's just seamless. It wasn't, oh, it's boys and girls. It was just, this is the next game we're watching right now. And then same thing with the PWHL, which is very easy to get, by the way. Obviously, you know, for people, where do you watch it? It's YouTube. It's not tough to find it.
Women's World too is all over NHL Network right now.
Right. And
there you go.
That's how we present, again, hockey, but sports in general in our house is like, no, we're watching this game. And I think that, you know, as a father, and you alluded to this, it's so important. My son sees that too, right? Like, I think sometimes dads are, oh, girl, there's women on the TV. Like, no, it's just son and daughter. This is a hockey game we're watching here, you know. And you're absolutely right about the athletes. There's no shortage of talent in the PWHL to pick from, and these games are exciting. I mean, so I guess I'm being a little rah-rah here, but I just think, commenting from the parenting standpoint, it's like, expose both your kids, all your kids, to all of this, because it's super fun. And I don't know what changed the environment with, we'll call it the Caitlin Clark era, with those, it's weird to say, but the 2 NCAA championship losses somehow vaulted that storyline to the front. And I guess the environment was correct, and the mindset was correct for it to explode later than it should have been done, but it was done, right? And I just don't see it going anywhere now.
Yeah, and I think we have to give credit to the soccer players as well, who started a fight a long time ago for equal pay, because that was the seed, a very big. Actually, you know what? It started back at the World Cup when Mia Hamm and those ladies were playing, and they won the World Cup. And I'm having a brain fart. She ripped her shirt off. She had a Nike thing, and she took a ton of flack for it. And I remember thinking, like, why do they care about that? Like, that was a wicked moment. Every dude rips their shirt off after they score. What are we talking about?
Well,
you know what I mean?
You know, it was just a hoopla for nothing. And, you know, going even and Sherri and I talk about this all the time. Like, I was early teens in '98, and I watched that Olympic final, and I didn't like. It wasn't. I'm the result of that era of hockey influencing me, because, you know, Cammy Granato, for me, obviously that you're American, it was like, wow, oh my God, this is an amazing moment. So, you know, it took too long. It took 25 years, I think, from that moment. But you're right, with Mia Hamm and all this stuff, it's just the environment finally set itself right, and I think we're on a better trajectory now.
Yeah, and I think Tessa said it. You mentioned it earlier, Tessa, that you know, like when I was coaching with the Whale, I mean, I can't, you know, every weekend it was like dads asking me, hey, can you get me tickets? You know, hey, can you get me in? I'm like, the tickets are $7. I said, just go support the program. Like you need, like, that's that. And again, it's not their obligation, but if you certainly are somebody that's getting your kid into sport early, and you want equal opportunity, then you have to foster that equal opportunity as well. You know, for the women that are ahead of you, right? Or doing. I mean, I remember I'm sitting in the back room, like, these women are getting dressed in 2 different locker rooms in some little, you know, podunk rink. You know, I'm like, you know, you gotta treat them. You know, it's got to be treated the same in order for them to elevate. I completely understand that, but the people that are supporting those sports need to also do that from the grassroots level. Right. And, you know, I could never understand why, like, you know, you mentioned, like, when the girls were in the rink anyway for practice, they would just happen to be there for these games. And I'm like, I just don't understand how every youth girls organization doesn't surround their team events around professional women's hockey events. Like, to me, it's a very easy thing to do. You know, so it's odd that they don't do it, but they should do it. Just as far as your breakthrough in media, can you just talk a little bit about, you know, your advice and the challenges of, you know, from going from a player to all of a sudden breaking through media? I mean, a lot of our younger players probably know you from Shoresy more than they know you from TSN or something like that. So, but I mean, I think it's just one of those things where, you know, maybe you could talk a little bit about, you know, what that transition was like, and then and really how hard it is, whether you're a male or a female, right, to go from a player into like a broadcasting role and you know, a mainstream hockey media role.
Yeah, it was not planned. I had graduated with a degree in speech and hearing science. I wanted to be a speech language pathologist. Cassie Campbell had called me one summer and was like, I have an opportunity. I can't do it. My neck's still not great. Did you want to do it? And I was like, well, I don't know what it is, but sure, I trust you. And it turned out to be Battle of the Blades. And that's just kind of how I go about life. I often say yes to things just to see where it leads me. And because I did Battle of the Blades, Leafs TV saw me on CBC and asked, you know, would you think about coming in and hosting for us talking hockey. They were losing Andy Petrillo to Hockey Night in Canada. And I was like, I think so. I mean, how hard can that be? You know, I play hockey, and it turns out when that red light comes on, it's very hard. There's a lot of homework involved. I was never a big homework person, but the first thing one of my bosses said to me, or one of my producers said to me, and I appreciate him more than anything, Mark Askin, was proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. The 6 Ps. Those are the only things you need to remember. And I wish he told me that during my career as well, because I could have used that some days. But so his thing was like, just be over prepared because you never know what's going to happen on live TV. And that's what I just jumped into, was live TV. Okay. So I knew the game. Sure. Did I know everything about every NHL team that was coming in to play the Toronto Maple Leafs at the beginning? No, I knew nothing. I wasn't doing the 6 Ps. I think the hardest part about being on camera is being yourself, which is the strangest thing, because you have someone talking in your ear. You have basically a rundown to follow. And on live TV, everything is to time. So you have to hit your time. And then obviously knowledge and getting the facts right is wildly important. So it's like there's a lot going on and you find yourself robotic. I remember at TSN, I was about almost 6 months in, and my mom called me on my ride home at like midnight one time after an 11 o'clock sports center I did. And she was like, I finally saw you on TV. I'm like, Mom, I've been working for like 6 months. She's like, no, I've been watching. She's like, but I finally saw you. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I went back and I watched it. I pulled that up just like hockey. I went and watched the video. And I was like, okay, I see it now. Like, why wasn't I doing that before? And it's like a moment where, because in certain shows that are very scripted and like Sports Center, it's really hard to find areas to be creative. But the way you can do it is just by being yourself and being goofy and saying inside jokes that your friends that are watching TV know, and they'll text you or whatever. But it's hard. Like, it is way harder than anybody understands. And I think what people miss a lot is, like, if there's ever an error, it's our face on TV. We take it. But we have a team of like wildly impressive and talented people in the background that no one ever gets to see or understand or know, that are making this whole thing run so smoothly. And at the end of certain tournaments and stuff, or at the end of the NHL season, when, you know, people are signing off at the end of the broadcast, they'll be like, and camera guy so-and-so, and, you know, Nate, the director, and they're naming all these people. They're not just saying names. Like, these are people that actually make us look good when we are really bad. And I think that's the coolest part that I learned, is TV is the furthest thing from an individual sport. It's actually an incredibly intricate team sport. And I loved it, because the newsroom or any type of meeting space that you have when you're doing an event is so much like a locker room. Like, people have fun, people joke around, like, they'll surprise you when you're on air with, you know, some people would rip on me for being a Buckeyes fan. If, you know, Ohio State lost to Michigan in a football game, they'd put me up on air with a Michigan banner in front of me, stuff like that. So it was like a really cool eye-opening experience for me to see, like, okay, this is what it takes to be on camera. It's not just like sitting here and spewing hockey knowledge. There's a lot more to it. And there's a lot more people to it. And so that's what I fell in love with. And I still am in love with broadcasting TV and even podcasting now that I'm doing. And I love what you guys do, because you guys, you know, it's a familiar thing. It's a part of your routine. It's ever changing, but the things that are, you know, consistent are the three of you, and you get to have some good chats, and, you know, you have a really good audience that actually cares about their kids, that cares about the sport of hockey. And love it the same way we do. So kudos to all of you for doing this and for doing things for the greater good, especially for the ladies that play. So thanks.
It sounds like an apt time to thank our producer, Caitlin, and our editor, Xavier, and everybody.
There you go.
which we do regularly.
I just saw you turned on the mic. I didn't know all that other stuff happening in the background. I said, what the heck?
Yeah.
Listen, Tessa, I love the fact. So you're in media work. I mean, you're in it, right? You have to, and you're doing all your P's. You know, so you have to be prepared. I mean, so one of the things I think you have is what's very unique with broadcasters is you have a front row kind of seat to all these great coaches and bad coaches. And you know, really get to see, you know, what coaches do to push buttons and motivate players and work the lineups and get players to play at their best. Can you just give a little bit of a background and maybe talk a little bit about what you've seen out of these coaches that our youth coaches can take to be really, you know, supportive leaders? And I don't mean on the bench and what their persona is, you know, sitting up on the bleacher, you know, sitting up in the back of the bench. But what are you seeing from your perspective, from the media side that you could maybe give to our youth coaches and say, hey, listen, this is what pros do, but this is what every good coach does?
Yeah, I think Jessica Campbell from the Seattle Kraken said it best and we hadn't even gone out and interviewed her, and I was just like, how are things? Like, how are the guys with you? And actually a couple of the guys like had walked in and was like, hey, Soupy, like talking to her, and I was like, that's cool. And she's like, they all respect her and they all go to her for things because her mantra, and it made me think about, okay, well, what coaches were my favorite and did they have those quality, is caring about the person first. So coaches, if you see a kid come in one day that's kind of down, the second they get on the ice, just be like, hey, pal, are you okay? You know, what's going on? You look a little sad. I'm here if you ever want to talk. You know, you want to have some fun today? Let's go have some fun. We'll see if we can turn that frown upside down, kind of thing. Start the practice off with the game, whatever. So that, and then I think, like I said before, knowing when to push and when to let go. I remember my dad, and these are just for the competitive teams, probably some older players. My dad, when he coached college, he had a really good leader. He had a really good captain on his team, and they'd have a terrible period or let a team back in a game, whatever. They weren't playing or performing the way they should, and he knew they were capable of. And he was going to go in the room and he was thinking to himself, like, do I yell? What do I say? And he walked to the door and the captain was there and he put his hand up and he was like, we don't need you in here. Don't worry. I got it. And so that's when my dad was like, I picked the right guy. And so I think in those moments, it's important to talk to, you know, your players, to be like, I am the coach, but like, you know, the locker room sometimes better than I do. And I want to put that responsibility on you too. And that kind of helps not only give them a little bit of power and make them feel like, right, this is our team too. This isn't just the coach's team. Like, we get to dictate some stuff too. So to have conversations with your players that, like, sometimes I'm going to rely on you to do that. I'm going to tell you, I'm not coming in the room. You handle it. And then it starts generating conversation in the locker room, player to player, where they can actually have open conversation and really start breaking things down themselves and understanding the game themselves. And I think coaches that offer you that opportunity as a player, it doesn't only breathe confidence into you and your teammates, but it also kind of forces you to grow and learn the game from a coach's standpoint, right? Because, like, okay, so you're used to only thinking, how did I play out there? Like, after your shift, you're breaking your shift down. Okay, well, you're watching the three other lines go. What did you notice? What's consistently not great? Or what are we consistently not doing well? Or what are we consistently doing well that we should keep doing, and then adjusting the rest? And I think that coaches that give their players that luxury of coaching each other works well. And I think, you know, the whole yelling and kicking the the garbage can thing is kind of gone. I mean, I'm sure it serves its purpose at some point, but I like positive reinforcement. So if you're a team that does video, I always like clipping the good clips that players do to remind them what they're doing well. And if there's something else you want them to do, or maybe that they weren't doing, but you notice someone else on your team is good at it, then just clip the other player that's good at it and be like, I want you to incorporate this in your game. So then, because visually, keep in mind, we're all very visual, the more you reinforce and show them doing good things, the more their brain is developing that narrow pathway. And then if you see, okay, maybe, you know, their reverse is constantly, a defender is reversing and the puck's constantly staying on the boards. Instead of showing them that their puck constantly stays on the boards, pick someone else on the team. Look at the angle. Look how they bounce that back. I want you to incorporate that in your game. You always got to make sure it's a foot and a half off. Cool. I know you can do it. I'm just showing you. This is what I want you to do. So I think those teachable moments where you're reinforcing a good habit as opposed to putting a thumb down on a bad one, is the way to go. And at least what I enjoyed in a coaching staff, very much so. But yeah, definitely treating the player like a person first and foremost.
I love it, Tessa. And I'll tell you what, we actually had Mike Keenan on the show not
Yeah.
that long ago, right? Iron Mike. And what was pretty astounding is, he just had a book come out, and he's older now, but he talks about how much he actually cared for his players. Now, he also fully admits, like, I coached in a different time, and I coached the way I had to coach in that time. But, like, I wouldn't say there was regret there. That's not the right word. But there was this longing of, like, I really did care about my players. And I think that as the game has evolved, and you're using, in my opinion, like, the teacher is the right word for coaching. Like, when you're not teaching, you're not coaching anymore. They're one and the same. But I always get asked this question about, well, especially at the higher levels where you have to cut kids or choose lineups. Like, how can you coach that way and maintain it? Well, look, it's two things. You have to establish trust with your team, number one. You have to establish what that is and what that means. And then the second thing is communicate. And so when I'm coaching, I'm very up front with my players, especially the high-level players. Look, I will always be honest with you. And that means that there are times you may not make the team or I may not play you, but I will be honest with you about why. And I don't think that conversation happens nearly as much as it needs to. And I can tell you, coaches, you could be a very genuine person, but if you're kind of a yes person and very caring and not explaining to your players that I'm going to have to make some tough decisions, well, when you make those tough decisions, they're going to think you're fake because you haven't really told them the full picture. So it's about respect, but it's also about understanding clear expectations of when you're building a team. I have to make tough decisions. And again, my belief is the door should always be open. A player who doesn't play should be able to come to you and you should have a discussion. You don't have to agree, all right? But you should be able to have that communication. I think that's what you're talking about. And I'm more asking this as kind of a question. Is that what you're seeing in these top-level coaches? Is that kind of trust and communication?
Which should be there. I can tell you that certain teams that I played for or was trying out for, that wasn't there. And if you want your players to compete at their lowest or their worst, have them constantly guessing what they're doing right and doing wrong. Right. And if the conversation was there to be had, it would be like, oh, okay, that's all I have to do. Okay, I can do that. I can play better, as opposed to like, you're on the bubble. And it's like, well, what does that even mean? Or like, you're not dressed tonight. And it's like, oh, what did I do? Or all of a sudden someone's got tossed down. And then, you know what that sparks is behind the scene talking and rumors. And then people say stuff. And then all of a sudden you got clicks and things aren't going well and you have horrible team chemistry. So you're the adult as a coach. It is your responsibility to act as such. And if you are not good at having tough conversations, perhaps maybe ask your assistant coach to do it. But I can say from a player standpoint that there was never a point that I liked hockey less than when I was in a position where I had no idea what I was doing right or wrong. And the game didn't become fun. The game wasn't fun anymore because I couldn't figure out. I was too busy worrying. And like, when was the last time I ever worried about playing hockey? Do you know what I mean? I never worried about playing hockey until this moment where it's like, I actually cared about wanting to make this team and I was sacrificing a lot and I was working my tail off and I still had no idea what I was doing there. Not a clue. So I think as a coach, your job is to make every single player at a tryout or on your team, whether you think they're 1A, 2C, whatever, is to have everyone perform at their best. And I think it's important for kids and players to understand too that everyone's going to have a role and it'll be different every game. Some games your third line might be your best line and that third line's going to play a lot. And sometimes the backup goalie is going to steal a game and play out of their face and people are going to celebrate that backup goalie and they might get another game right after it just because, and that's okay. Some games you might be the grocery stick like I was. And what's your job when you're separating the forward and the D? You know, your job's to watch the game. Hey, I noticed when they're forechecking there, watch the game, help the coaches coach. You see a player make a mistake, give them a tap on the back. Let them know it's okay. Kim St. Pierre arguably could have been the starting goaltender in 2010. We had 3 goalies that, quite frankly, were starting goalies. You could have plucked a name out of the hat. We would have won. Shannon Zabados in net, of course. Kim St. Pierre could have been sulking on the bench. That was her net, fair to say. It was her last Olympics. I came off the ice really ticked off one time, slammed my stick, dropped an F-bomb, shook my head. I feel this hand on my shoulder, and I turn around, and Kim's like, hey, Tess, look around, look where you are. Every single person in here would pay a ton of money just to sit where you are and to have the opportunity to make that mistake. And I was like, oh, and she's like, still nothing. You're fine. Go have fun. I was like, holy shit. Here's a goalie that should be cranky and sad that she's not starting because she felt like she got ripped off. And I was her roommate, and it hit her hard when she found out that she wasn't starting. Don't get me wrong. She's a competitor. It should have. But she didn't have to take that moment to do that for me. She acted as a true proper teammate, and she played her role to perfection, which in turn helped me be successful in that final game and, helped me wear the same jersey as Marie-Philippe Poulin, who scored the 2 goals to get us the gold. But my point is she played her role to perfection, and she didn't have to do that. And I very easily could have, gone in a very bad direction, a poor mentality, and played really crappy the rest of that game. And she pulled me out of that.
It's an amazing story.
Yeah, I love these stories. We could do a whole nother show with just like behind the scenes Team Canada stories. I love it.
Yeah.
So 2025, obviously we're here right now. Very, very special time. We talked about the growth of women's sports, and obviously it's exploding. What I want to know is, like, how can organizations and coaches help support the next generation, these kids that are 7, 8, 9, 10 coming up now, and help us grow the game intentionally for girls and women?
Grow it intentionally. Like I said, tune in to the games. All these women have hockey schools, as do I. Some of them fill up real fast. Some of them don't. I always find, when I'm at games and they're like, oh, we're from the same hometown as so-and-so. I'm like, oh, does your kid go to their hockey school? And they're like, no, we haven't really decided yet. Whereas if they had a son and there was an NHL player running a hockey school, they would have been registered last year. So I think getting these players and kids to interact with these athletes, like it happened to me at these hockey schools. These PWHL teams are now running their own hockey schools themselves, getting them out to that. But just getting to the game. And I don't think it's only hockey. I will say that. I think it's just women's sports in general, and just any type of sports. So NWSL, NSL in Canada now. When the WNBA is going, just make sure you're getting out to support these kids and these players with your kids. As far as supporting the coaches, I've got 2 young kids, and I'm starting to have to do the coaching clinics now. There are a ton of books out there. Follow Cassie Campbell on social media. She posts a lot of good leadership books. I have read some amazing, mind-blowing books. DM her if you want some good ones. Her DMs
she just
might blow up.
But
yeah, they're real. They're great. They're all good reads. Yep. And, people always see leadership as like this very one-dimensional, straightforward thing. But I think it's so intricate and there's so many facets to it that, it's okay to look within ourselves and lead as a better parent, as a better coach, as a better teammate, all that stuff. So I think just reading and doing yourself a favor and educating yourself on leadership. But to be honest, I think for the future of women's sports and women's hockey, I think it's taking the time to, like you do, Lee, is turn the TV on and just have it be on. And that's just what normal is, and that's what it is. And talking not only about, sure, there's NHL playoffs going on too, but you can just be like, man, did you see that Victoire game last night? Can you believe it? Just comfortable, normal, regular conversation, and keeping it more normal. And I think, we're almost at a point where we can stop celebrating. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's not always make it can you believe it? It's like, yes, I believe it. You should too. Let's start acting that way. Do you know what I mean? And owning that space. And I think teaching your daughter to own that space and not be shy to talk about it, or feel awkward to talk about it. And, any guy friend would come up to me and talk to me about, a football game or a basketball game, an NBA game or an NFL game. So why should I feel any more awkward to go up to them and talk to them about a PWHL game? So I think normalizing those conversations too. Coaches, do yourself a service and get to know every single player in the PWHL if you coach. And you should be asking your players, who do you think you play like, or who would you like to emulate your game after? And if they say a boy player, that is great and totally fine. Then say, okay, who on the female side? Ask for a counterpart, because it's these ladies' responsibility as well to get to know these players. And if they don't know someone and you know who they kind of play like, just be like, hey, you should watch the Boston Fleet play. Alina Mueller, you have an exact game like her. She's very cerebral. She's got good hands and she's a fantastic playmaker. Start watching her. So then it's like, oh, okay, I should. So then they're going to go in the car and their mom will be like, they'll say to their mom, hey, I want to start watching the Boston Fleet play. Okay, then all she has to do, okay, where do we watch it? If you're in the United States, YouTube. It's free. It's easy. What kid doesn't know how to get to YouTube? So I think those are the types of conversations and things that we need to normalize. So coaches, you got a lot of hockey watching to do. If you have no idea about things, drop me a DM. I'll be more than happy to help out because it breaks my heart when I run my hockey school and I ask kids, girls, who their favorite players are, and every single one of them says a boy player, because there are a plethora of amazing women hockey players out there that have done nothing but bring this game to where it is today, and they deserve to be looked up to equally as the men do.
Well, I love that you mentioned the camps too. Like there's so many camps. I saw PWHL Boston just put out 12U and 14U camps all summer. Megan Keller has a camp, like there's camps everywhere. You can go meet these people. And when you can meet the athletes, it's so impactful regardless of what age you are. Like we just took, well, not just, it was February. We took our 10U girls to WICFest up in Calgary.
Nice. And awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. But Haley is such an incredible ambassador, like made time for every single girl. And she did back-to-back 2 weekends, 2,500 girls. She's, signing autographs for, shaking hands, taking photos. These girls, my team came back so inspired. They're American girls. So it's like we had to teach them a little bit about Haley's past, but they can't stop talking about it. And the really cool thing here now, is the boys running around City National Arena here in Vegas in WICFest hoodies. So
I love that.
The brothers all bought WICFest stuff. We got the water bottles and stuff, but the girls just meeting her, taking photos, it's shown them that there is a path for them. And Cassie was here. She came out on the ice with our 19U girls at T-Mobile, and our girls couldn't believe they got to skate with someone like that. And aspiring, to pursue their dreams and stuff, because they did have the chance to meet these ambassadors in the game. So parents, if you do have time to go to a camp, or, there's people in your town like that you can go meet, go to the games, meet them. It's going to be really impactful for their future.
And the coolest part, my dad, well, I don't know how often we did this, but you can make a little vacation out of it too, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're not from Boston, or if you're not from Minnesota or whatever, you can take a trip with your families, go to the hockey school, spend the day playing some hockey, and then you can go out on the water or go do whatever you want in a city and discover the city as a family as well. My dad used to be really good at creating moments like that, where it's like a hidden vacation or a hidden hockey school within a vacation, which was kind of cool and kind of fun.
Yeah, what kid wouldn't want that? And I'll tell you, as we kind of get to the end here, Tessa, like we are waiting for an expansion team to come to Philadelphia. There's a lot of girls and women.
Vegas first. Get out of here.
Maybe it's easier to travel, but just to kind of round out the point, and this is for you too, Sherri. Again, my daughter's 8, and she said something to me this past winter that really hit me. She goes, "Well, I want to play in the PWHL one day." And I'm realizing 2 years ago, no girl had ever said that, ever, right? In fact, the question would typically be, has a girl ever played in the NHL? I've heard that a few times, right? Yeah. So the fact that, like, this is the impact that you start to see at the younger ages, like the women that are pioneering now. And I think you're right, Tess. It's like, what are we celebrating at this point? It's just great hockey. Let's just make it bigger and bigger and bigger. But the 8-year-olds, and I know my daughter's not the only one, the 8-year-old saying, I want to play in the PWHL. Like, that is a moment of impact. And I'll remind everyone, dads, mothers, everybody, that is a new thing that has not been said before, right? So that's the future impact. And, when in 10, 20 years, when assuming she's still playing, or the women that are playing at that time, it's amazing to think about what that landscape may look like. But Tessa, this has been awesome. We finish every episode with rapid fire questions. You're a broadcaster, you're a hockey player. You'll do fine. Are you ready for a few quick ones?
Sure. Are these one-word answers?
No. You can answer as long as you want. They're just quick questions. I'll put it that way, right? Yep. So I'll lead off here. Favorite rink you ever played in?
OSU ice rink. It's a dirty old barn, but everyone else hated playing there.
Pack barn. You guys would pack that place. It was awesome.
Yeah, but everyone else hated playing there. That's why I love it so much. We make it very uncomfortable for the visiting team. So OSU ice rink or the Sudbury Arena, that's also an old school rink that like it's got a smell to it, you know.
Everybody knows Sudbury now. At least it exists, right?
Yeah.
Who wants to dive in the next one?
You guys take them.
Okay.
I'll take 3.
Okay, I'll do number 2. This is what I'm actually curious about because depending on when you played, we get a lot of different answers on this one. But best pregame hype song that you used to listen to, or that you still think is the best one ever.
I was never a DJ. I was just like along for the rider. But we used to actually. So New Orleans is sinking. We used to always put it on before going out, and Megan, Augusta, and I would be the last ones walking out of the room onto the ice for warm-ups, and we would at whatever point of the song we would walk out, we would just sing the rest of it all the way down the hall onto the ice, and while we skated around until we finished the song. That's Tragically Hip for any American listeners that don't know. They're a great Canadian band, rock legends. Gord, rest in peace. But give them a listen. New Orleans is sinking, and it's like it's not anything crazy or upbeat. It's just like we love them. Anyways, it's a good tune.
Downloads are about to go skyrocket on that song when this is released. Just be ready for that.
Every American should know the hip. Get into it.
Yeah.
This one's a layup. Aside from Our Girls Play Hockey, what is your favorite podcast?
I've got a bunch that I listen to. I'm a Mel Robbins listener. I'm a Empty Netters listener. I listen to a lot. Gosh. To be honest, if you looked on my Spotify, probably, do you want to know what my most listened to podcast would be? It's called The 10-Minute Ride for Kids, where it's a kids podcast, and they teach you about why you brush your teeth and how popcorn pops. I'm a nerd. I'm a loser. I've got kids. That's what I do.
You're not a loser. Truly, it's okay to be a nerd.
I'm into all of it. Like I could pull up my list of podcasts, and it literally is just like whatever I'm kind of feeling like that day. Truly. Do I feel like laughing? Do I feel like, learning something? Sometimes I listen back to my own podcast just to take notes and have teachable moments. But yeah.
We would love for you, speaking of the layup, why don't you tell people about your podcast so we can get people out of that one real quick?
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
So I started the Jocks and Jills podcast with my friend and co-host, Julia Sherri. I was very upset and offended at the lack of coverage that was that the PWHL was receiving in its first year. And so I thought to myself, why would I not just create something? And so I was like, let's do a podcast. So we did. We called it Jocks in Jills because we were a couple of jocks. We wear jills. If you don't know what a jill is, it's a jock for a female privates. And our goal was to help make these women more marketable and help everyone get to know them better, because the one thing I always got when I went to events was we don't really know who any of you ever are because you always have cages on. We can't tell. And I was like, you also don't know anything about me, but cool. And so I was like, we're going to do a podcast where we break down the games in the league. So if you didn't have time to watch anything, but you wanted to know what the heck was going on, we do headlines, the biggest hits that happen that week. And then we have a new player on every week. And we don't do your prototypical hockey interview where it's like 110%, the team tried, we'll be better, get the pucks deep, all that stuff. Yeah. We pull up some dirt on these ladies. We make sure we have some fun with them and get to know them as people, what makes them tick, why they fell in love with hockey, where they were from, because we also want our younger listeners to find a way to relate with these players. So if you live in an area that doesn't have a team in your market, you can find a favorite player and cheer for them. I mean, I lived in Sudbury and I cheered for the Colorado Avalanche because I love Peter Forsberg, right? So we just kind of have them talk through their hockey career and throw some laughs in there as well. I mean, one of the best laughs I had in a while, I think, was recently we had Brianne Jenner on, and she was talking about a pranking war that took place when she was in her senior year at Cornell. And it was the rookies against the vets, against the seniors. And things had gotten pretty wild between both classes. And they came home one day to a bouquet of flowers on their front porch, and it said truce on the card. And they're like, we won. This is great. They were like taking pictures with the flowers to like send back to the ladies saying thank you. And Brienne was like, these flowers smell. Like, what's up with this? And they had pooped in the vase and stuck the flowers. So the rookies actually beat the vets.
That's going the extra mile.
Right? Committed.
Yeah. Well, Tessa, listen, we didn't pull up any dirt on you today, but we did get some amazing stories out of you. And we're going to make your dream come true. You're going to appear on our 10-minute podcast, the Ride to the Rink, here shortly.
Love that.
Is directly to the kids. And then you can play it in your car. Although I we don't listen to our own podcast, I think, in our cars either. So
totally can. I'm going to start playing it for my kids.
There you go. I appreciate that, Tessa. And listen, I just want to thank you for being on Our Girls Play Hockey. This really was a fantastic episode. And, what you've done for the game and your teammates and really everybody, it's well appreciated. So thanks for being here today.
Appreciate everything you guys are doing too. Sherri down there at the Vegas Golden Knights, I know they got a good thing going. So thanks for being a part of that and helping grow the game down there too. Mike, good seeing you, bud.
Yeah,
thanks for your input. And Lee, thanks for being a great dad and doing that for your kids, putting women's hockey on and women's sports on all the time. That's huge, man.
Well, that means more to me than probably any compliment you could have given, because I really do identify as a dad. But thank you so much. That's going to do it for this edition of Our Girls Play Hockey. For Tessa Bonhomme, Sherri Hudspeth, Mike Benelli, I'm Lee Elias. We'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Take care. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.